In the year 1721, a man died in a stone-walled room in Seville, Spain. His name was Mateo de Alarcón, and for 40 years he had been the primary cartographer for the Spanish Empire. He had mapped the coastlines of the New World, the dangerous reefs of the Caribbean, and the hidden currents of the Atlantic. But on his deathbed, he did something that the royal court considered an act of high treason. He called for a brazier of burning coals, and one by one, he fed his life's work to the flames. As the gold-leafed ink and expensive vellum curled into black ash, Mateo whispered a single phrase to his weeping apprentice: "No podemos permitir que lo encuentren." We cannot allow them to find it. When the king's men burst into the room an hour later, they found only a cold body and a room filled with smoke. However, hidden inside the inner lining of Mateo's heavy wool coat, they found a single hand-drawn scrap of paper. It was a map of a place that shouldn't exist. At the exact center of the Pacific Ocean, a region known only for its endless empty blue, Mateo had drawn a landmass larger than Great Britain. He labeled it the 11th province. The king sent 3 expeditions to those coordinates. The first ship, the Santa Maria de la Luz, returned 3 months later. The crew was catatonic. The captain reported that they had reached the exact point on Mateo's map, but there was no land. Instead, they found a section of the ocean where the water was as still as a mirror. There were no waves, no wind, and no fish. They claimed the stars in the sky didn't match the ones they knew. They described a sensation of sailing through a ghost, where the ship felt weightless and the compass needles began to spin backward. The 11th province was officially declared a myth, a madman's fantasy. But the map remained in the secret archives of the Vatican, a silent witness to a geography that the world had forgotten to render. How can you remember a place you have never been? In the late 1990s, a neurologist in Zurich named Dr. Elena Voss began noticing a statistical impossibility in her sleep study data. Over the course of 5 years, 14 different patients coming from entirely different social, cultural, and linguistic backgrounds described the exact same city in their dreams. This wasn't the vague, shifting architecture of typical dreams. This was structural. They spoke of a city built entirely from a translucent, emerald-colored stone that hummed when the wind touched it. They described a harbor where the water didn't flow in waves, but in perfect geometric pulses. They spoke of the rib towers, enormous curved structures that reached miles into a sky that was always white, lit by a sun that never moved. Dr. Voss began a blind test. She asked each patient to draw the street layout of this dream city. When she overlaid the 14 drawings on a light table, they matched with 98% accuracy. But the true terror came when a researcher in Spain saw those drawings. He recognized the layout. It was identical to the harbor sketches found in the margins of Mateo de Alarcón's hidden map from 1721. 14 people in 1998 were walking the streets of a province that had been burned out of history 3 centuries prior. The question wasn't just what is Nova Thule? The question was why is it calling us back? We are taught that memories are personal, stored in the brain like a hard drive. But what if there are place memories? Geographical ghosts that exist in the collective human consciousness because they have no physical home left in our dimension. In 2012, modern technology finally caught a glimpse of the invisible. A deep-sea autonomous glider, equipped with advanced hydrophones and gravimetric sensors, was transiting the Pacific. As it approached the coordinates of the 11th province, its instruments went haywire. The sensors reported a massive gravitational anomaly, as if a mountain range was sitting right in front of the glider. But the cameras showed nothing. The sonar pings returned a flat, empty seafloor 5 miles below. Yet the glider's hull began to groan under a pressure that shouldn't have been there. It was as if the ocean was remembering the weight of an island that was no longer visible to the naked eye. During this encounter, the glider recorded a sound that has since been dubbed the Echo of Thule. It was a low-frequency, rhythmic vibration, exactly 440 hertz. This isn't the sound of shifting tectonic plates or whale songs. It is the frequency of a tuning fork. When digital audio engineers visualized this sound, it formed a 3D topographical map. It showed valleys, rivers, and the distinct outlines of ancient, massive architecture. Physics tells us that light is a fragile thing. It can be bent, refracted, and hidden. If a landmass possessed a high enough magnetic field or a unique atmospheric density, it could effectively create a cloaking glitch in the Earth's surface. The 11th province isn't gone. It is simply vibrating at a frequency that our eyes cannot translate. It is a 404 error. In the physical world, a place where the terrain is loaded but the textures are missing. We are sailing through it every day, unaware that just an inch to the left of our perception, an entire civilization is watching us pass by. There is a file in the British Home Office that has been classified since 1954. It concerns a man who appeared at Heathrow Airport, carrying a suitcase made of a leather that no biologist could identify. He was tall, calm, and spoke English with an accent that sounded like a mix of ancient Greek and a lost Polynesian dialect. When he reached customs, he handed over a passport. The cover was a deep iridescent purple. The gold foil lettering read, "The Republic of the 11th Province." The customs officers assumed it was a sophisticated prank, but as they examined the document, their laughter turned to a cold, creeping dread. The paper was made of a crystalline fiber that felt like silk, but was impossible to tear. The watermarks were three-dimensional, moving slightly when the light hit them. The man claimed he was a merchant, traveling to the continental world to trade for glass, something he said was rare in his homeland. He was detained in a high-security room. Throughout the night, the guards reported hearing a soft humming sound coming from the walls. The man didn't eat the food they gave him. He simply stared at the sky through the small window, looking confused by the moon. By 6 a.m., the room was empty. The door was still locked from the outside. The man hadn't just escaped, he had vanished. All that remained was his passport on the table. Over the next 48 hours, the officers watched in horror as the purple document began to turn translucent. It softened, then liquefied into a pool of silver-white salt water before evaporating completely. The 11th province had reclaimed its citizen, leaving behind only the smell of ozone and the realization that our borders are far more porous than we dare to believe. We live in an age where every square inch of the Earth has been photographed by satellites. We feel a sense of total ownership over our planet. But the 11th province suggests that we are merely tenants in a house with locked rooms. The maps we use are not truths. They are agreements. We agree that the Pacific is empty because to admit otherwise would be to admit that we do not understand the nature of space. Mateo de Alarcón didn't burn his maps because he wanted to hide a treasure. He burned them because he understood that Nova Thule was a contagious geography. Once you know it exists, the rest of the world begins to feel thin. The mountains of Switzerland, the deserts of Africa, the streets of New York, they all begin to look like temporary sets on a stage that could be dismantled at any moment. There are thousands of reports every year of people glitching out of reality. Hikers who walk behind a tree and are never seen again, or ships that enter a fog bank and emerge 20 years later. Perhaps they aren't lost. Perhaps they simply found the entrance to the 11th province. Perhaps they are walking on those emerald streets right now, looking up at the white sun, wondering why we are still trapped in our 10 provinces of shadow. As you look at a map tonight, pay attention to the blue spaces, the parts where the cartographer ran out of names. That is where the reality ends and the Vanish Point begins. Do not look for the land, look for the silence, because in that silence the 11th province is still waiting, and it is much closer than you think.